The state of Alabama is being sued for using slave labor. A federal lawsuit filed on Tuesday claims that prisoners in the state system have been forced to work jobs at fast food restaurants as part of what they call a labor trafficking scheme to not only, of course, benefit corporations, but to benefit the state as well, because they end up taking about 40% of the workers' wages, the imprisoned workers' wages. Now, 10 former and current prisoners and labor unions that represent service workers filed this lawsuit on Tuesday against Alabama Governor Kay Ivey, Attorney General Steve Marshall, a beer distributor, and several fast food companies that have employed these workers. Now, the lawsuit alleges that the prison system has been making this money by deducting fees from wages of prisoners that are, of course, prisoners who will not complain, who will not be able to quit, who will not be able to ask for higher wages. In fact, they will get punished if they do so with more prison time. Private companies such as KFC, Wendy's, Burger King, and McDonald's get a steady supply of workers from this little arrangement that they have, who again will not complain, won't talk back. They're slaves. I don't know how else to put it. They're literal slaves. They can't leave. You leave, you go back to prison. And the prison system in Alabama, like a lot of the country, is really, really bad. Now, workers also are required to, on top of the 40% that gets deducted by the Alabama Department of Corrections, that's their salary, their wages, they must also pay for transportation and clothes. So, yeah, they're just getting screwed all around. Currently, more than 500 companies have contracts with the Alabama Department of Corrections to obtain work from inmates. Now, the inmates are not allowed to refuse to work or protest dangerous conditions or long hours. Prisoners who engage in work stoppages can also be punished with transfers to higher security prisons, loss of privileges, and even be sent to solitary confinement, which is torture. Yes, it has already been ruled to be torture. So, look, this is a really ugly practice, and it's not something that we haven't seen before, especially in the southern states. Look, convict leasing was something that happened during the Jim Crow era, and it forced primarily black prisoners who had been arrested for violations of Jim Crow laws to work dangerous or grueling jobs for private corporations. So this is one of the things that Republicans have been doing in red states in response to labor attempting to take back its power. So during the pandemic, we talked about this before, where workers realized, oh, it turns out my employer is kind of screwing me. Yeah, they don't care about us at all. They're putting us in terrible conditions. We don't have, for example, hand sanitizer or cleaning supplies, soaps. We don't have PPE to protect ourselves from COVID, and yet we're being forced to come in and, serve customers who might be carrying coronavirus and getting people sick. And so workers have decided, hey, we're not going to work in these conditions. We can't. We're not going to put our lives on the line for minimum wage. So Republicans came up with the solution. Well, why don't we just put in actual literal slaves? Yeah, that's it. Now we're going to do that. And then, of course, after the pandemic, or at least when it winded down quite a bit, we're still kind of in it. COVID's still a serious, serious issue. They decided to, let's deregulate child labor. Let's bring back child labor and make it so that we have a steady stream of prison labor to run these fast food, the registers, be the fry cooks, do all those jobs. Because we don't actually want to pay people, for those jobs. It's just disgusting, right? Republican governors, as I said, disbanded child labor laws. We saw that in Arkansas with Governor with the governor there, and then under Governor Ivey, Alabama sharply cut the number of inmates eligible for parole between the years of 2020 and 2022. So now they're claiming, well, we did that. We're putting people on parole less because they're so dangerous. We can't let them out. They're just dangerous, horrible, scary prisoners. But wait a minute, no. According to State Representative Christopher England, many of them actually, who are, not being allowed to go out on parole, are allowed to leave to go work at these companies for several hours a day. In fact, he said saying that they are a threat to public safety is only a convenient excuse to deny them parole. And of course, the timing here, as I mentioned, COVID. Red states tried to reopen during those times and couldn't find workers. They were complaining about how people in the service industry, nobody wants to work anymore. Why are you not coming back? We need the service workers. We can't find any. Well, they found some. They got the prisoners. No coincidence here that Governor Ivey had ensured that less prisoners were paroled and instead were funneled into these jobs during a time where, again, workers were fighting for, and they still are, fighting for better wages, better working conditions, and most importantly, safe working conditions. Speaking of conditions, the other thing here that's important to note is how bad the Alabama prison system really is. According to the complaint, violence and extortion are common in Alabama prisons, which are currently understaffed. Inmates often take work release jobs to get out of that environment to earn money to buy clothes and extra food. Inmates live in constant danger of being murdered, stabbed, or raped. That is so profound that the federal government has sued Alabama for inflicting cruel and unusual punishment. And in fact, Alabama has allowed their prison systems, and maybe not just allowed, maybe they actually purposely did this. Made it so horrible that prisoners chose, hey, we'd rather choose slavery than this, because at least we'll be alive. That's horrifying. Now, Lakira Walker was incarcerated from 2007 to 2023. Now, she was actually up for parole in 2020. Oh, but look at that. She was delayed. Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall had actually opposed her application, even though her victims supported the release. According to the complaint, he actually claimed that she was a danger to the public. However, she worked both in the prisons and in the public. She actually did road work for Jefferson County, where she endured sexual harassment, and worked at Southeastern Meats, where she often spent time inside the freezers with inadequate clothes. On one occasion, as a result, Ms. Walker got so ill that she had to be carried to the healthcare unit and was unable to work. When that happened, she was actually approached by an ADOC job placement officer who told her that she had to, quote, get up and go make us our 40%. No lying down on the job, slave. What are you doing? You go make me some money, or you're going to go back to your cage. That's how they treat these people. That's how they treat people in Alabama. And in many other places, I suspect. This can't be the only place that this is happening. Look, the people that are doing this, they're the ones I think that deserve to be in the cages. Governor Ivey, the politicians that are actually perpetuating, bringing back slave labor, that's what they're doing. The corporate executives that are along for the ride, that are profiting quite handsomely from this. No, they deserve the cages. They deserve the cages. This is a horrific, absolute travesty of justice. It is injustice, and it just disgusts me to my core.